visits. They plan to decrease their spends on automobile, luxury brands, leisure travel. Yeah. They plan to defer spending of fashion and grooming, home decor. Right. Makes sense. Yeah. They believe that they will continue to buy more stuff on personal hygiene. They will buy also stuff like organic food, fitness, mediclaim. Why is that? Because there's a hit on the psychology of the country with regard, or not just the country, the world, in terms of what is the real meaning of hygiene and how hygienic does one really need to be. Yeah. And hence this is actually a behavior that we expect to continue. We expect that people will continue to invest more on health, on better quality food, on education, right, and maybe even investment, right. Now, what else is going on? So see, India itself boost when it came to demonetization, right? After demonetization that every single panwadi out there started having a QR code, right? But this time is really booming the online shopping market. I mean, I would say brands like Grofers, Dunzo, Big Basket are growing by 300 to 500% where it comes to FMCGs. Yeah. And hence online shopping is something it will continue to increase. However, there's a caveat. The entire contribution of e-commerce to FMCG is probably 1%, right? So even if it goes up 5x, it'll be maybe 5%, but it's not gonna replace your mom and pop stores. Yeah. OTT platforms, I think all of us are buying better Wi-Fi packages. We need that. They are all starting to see a lot more of video streaming, right? A lot of net partners have used this time to go open. So Hotstar is finally allowing advertising on OTT, which is a big one, right? Netflix is still closed. Yeah. So there's a lot of trends which are emerging. Yeah. What else? Who else has given us more information? So Mindshare has further done an estimation with a bunch of experts on what will happen to various sectors, right? They say auto will get hit not just because of lack of consumer mobility, but also these stresses with China is going to impact the back end, because we have a very high component deficiency, dependency there. All of those parts do come from China. It will take a long time for us to get value chains in other countries, right? Or ready to do the whole, make these things locally. It doesn't happen so easily. It won't happen very fast, right? Same thing with consumer durables, slightly less hit than auto. But again, there is a lot of dependence in China, and all of that will have some immediate and short-term impact. FMCG, some parts are not doing well. A lot of the parts are doing very well, right? And I'll come to that. Retail cinema outdoor will take time. Yeah, I don't think all of us are going to flock to cinema halls very quickly, even if there was a complete open up tomorrow. Yeah, travel hospitality will get hit. They will get hit for maybe for a year and a half. They will lose jobs. There will be consolidation. There will be income issues, right? Over a 3 to 5 year period, it will bounce back, right? The CAGRs won't change. And I have personally done a study of a lot of these, disasters, pandemics in the past. And over a 3 to 4 year period, everything remains the same. The compounded annual growth rate does not change. Yeah. But if you have a loss of 1 or 2 years, you'll bounce back with a vengeance in the past next two. Yeah. And telecom, again, there's a lot of good things going on there. Online education, all of that is really helping out. Yeah, there will be some impact on supply chains, but overall, it seems to be a good place to be in. Yeah. Again, what's the impact on advertising? Yeah, all of us, right? A lot of brands went off air, right? A lot of them came back on air in recent times, but really, it's a great time for advertisers, because you have consumers sitting at home with nothing else to do, right? So digital consumption is booming, right? And what I think is really interesting at this time, this is a time for challenger brands to topple the big guys, right? Because the big guys could tend to sit back and say that, consumer can't move out, the economy is depressed, why should I advertise? But a smart brand might say, the consumer is sitting at home, he's just seeing TV, kuch aur kar nahi raha hai, right? Let me build my brand equity now. Cost of GRPs is low. This is actually a very interesting time for marketeers and advertisers to really take advantage of this time. Yeah. Overall TV consumption has boomed. Everybody else is seeing 40-50% more TV. Yeah. There was a bit of a lag for some time when people realized that there is no fresh content, and people are having to see Mahabharata and Ramayana. Not the top choice for many of us. But now with production being opened up in many parts of the country, again, fresh content is coming in. People are raring to go. And a lot of this content is being released on the digital medium, making it a very interesting opportunity for brands, right? And I'll come to that. So like I said, ad volumes collapsed moment we went into shutdown. And that brown line, which is essentials, has been slowly coming back. Yeah, and I would say now we are probably 20-30% below the post-COVID, the pre-COVID era, but yeah, getting there. And I would expect this to come back quite soon. Now, like I mentioned, digital increase. So of course, there's a lot of people who are viewing a lot more of content on digital. Gaming is going up in a big manner. News apps are having the time under the sun. Everybody wants to see the next snippet of news to really understand what's going on, right? And there's also a lot of background behind why is the consumer doing what he is, right? And that is something that I will help uncover. Yeah. Okay, now this is really a very, very critical slide and a very important slide. I have personally found this graph extremely meaningful, very, very useful in terms of even plotting the way I have built strategy within my organization. Yeah. Now this study was done by Kantar, right? Kantar did this study in China because China was the only place where they could see the full cycle of pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID, and things coming back. Right, and these lines really refer to the growth rates of certain categories. Yeah, and hence what we learned from China is that there are 4 kind of categories. Right, the first kind of categories, and you will be quite a grateful person if you are in those categories. And luckily, I am in one of them, which is categories which are actually benefiting from the shutdown, and that category being dairy. Right. Things like cheese is actually booming. And why is that happening? Because the consumer is still eating the same amount of cheese, only instead of eating it in restaurants, they are buying retail cheese for the first time and cooking at home. Yeah. Who else is benefiting? Hygiene, of course, right? There's a hygiene improvements, right? Condiments, so different kind of sauces, different kind of spreads, right? Like I said, muesli, cornflakes, Greek yogurt, right? These are some of the categories. Organic food. These are all some of the categories which are growing, and they will continue to grow well post the shutdown, because these are learned behaviors. Once you learn how to make a pizza at home, you're going to continue making it, right? And hence there are actually a bunch of FMCG categories which will benefit through new consumer habits. Yeah. Then there are those categories, which is the blue line, right, which everybody stocked, right? All of us hoarded atta, chawal, milk, dal. Why did we do that, right? Because we did not know whether shopping outside is going to be easy, convenient, is going to be possible. And hence there's this big blue bump which you can see, a large temporary rise in consumption. And then the consumer realizes that, you know what, hey, I've got this stock and I can only consume so much of it. So it actually falls. And then if there is another subsequent shutdown, it again jumps up again. But really, I don't think the consumption of essentials and staples really increases significantly. In fact, it remains more or less the same. It just becomes skewed in how it gets purchased. Yeah. Now, there are 2 sectors which are getting hit. Yeah. One are those which will recover faster, which is V-shaped recovery. And one of those which will recover relatively more gradually, which is a U-shaped recovery, right? So what is V-shaped recovery? V-shaped recovery are those non-essential staples, right, which see a sharp drop, right, but speedy recovery. See, the consumer felt that, you know, I don't need milkshakes, right? I don't need kurkure. I don't need maybe as much of certain discretionary things, right? But moment he feels that, you know, ice creams, moment he feels a little safe to purchase, he says, yeah, maybe I can start getting back to normal. So hence things like regular dahi, yogurts, milkshakes, yeah, they've all got hit and they will come back, right? Certain areas will take a much longer time to recover. Ice creams is there, chocolates, candy, purely discretionary things, purely things which are relevant when you are walking around outside, when you're mobile, CSD drinks, cold drinks, Coca-Colas of the world. Yeah. If I'm not going to be walking outside in the sun, why do I really need to consume these? Why should I consume? Yeah, you might buy some chocolates once in a while to stock in your fridge, and then after a while you might realize you're not eating as much of them. Yeah, and hence I would say in the FMCG industry, these are the four ways in which various segments will get hit. Yeah. Now, this is also very well represented in a couple of graphs which I just picked up from Sensex. Right, if you see Sensex, it was rising steadily the way it has risen over the last 4-5 years. Got into COVID, massive collapse. Yeah, huge collapse in March. The share prices, everything collapsed. Slowly, people realize that the world has not come to an end. Yeah, life goes on. People are actually investing more in certain areas, right? And Sensex is rising. Yeah, Sensex has still not hit the pre-COVID levels, but it will fairly soon. Yeah, and this is represented differently in different companies which belong to those that I talked about. Yeah. So the sector in blue and yellow, which is a relatively more steady recovery section, or staples, which is where probably a Unilever fits into our life, right? Is only as much as soap you will buy. The share prices are stable, not booming, right? But those brands which are in the green line, which is things like biscuits and dairy and all of that, actually it is far above pre-Sensex levels. Why is that? Because those sectors are getting benefited. Yeah, and hence it is it is really a time not to panic or worry. It is a time to step back and take a pragmatic look on what's really going on. Yeah. Now, coming to my trade, yeah, to the job that I do, right? That fine, all of this is happening in the sector, but as a marketeer, right? How does a marketeer respond to this crisis? What do I do? What do my teams do? What do others like me do out there, right? What we do is that we sit back and we study, right? So we sit with our partners and we study what is going to happen. It's a bit like crystal ball gazing, but it is very logical and fact based, right? It starts by saying that what are the 4 phases of the pandemic, right? The first phase of the pandemic is the breach phase. Yeah, breach phase is a phase where and I would say this is probably March, right? When people are just mulling that is there going to be a shutdown, is there not going to be a shutdown, what's really going on there, right? And I would say a lot of us were panicking, right? So we were anxious, we were confused, we were wondering karna kya hai, right? And hence we were seeking out information. We're all flocking to YouTube, we're all flocking to the news apps, right? And certain brands use this opportunity to help provide information. So it created a opportunity for brands to engage. So what did brands do? Brands went out there and said that, what you should do now is that you need to wash your hands, right? And that became a very simple, trending topic for advertisers to really talk about. Yeah. The next phase is the crisis phase. Yeah. The crisis phase is what I would say India went through between March, April, maybe May, right? And a part of the country would still be in the crisis phase. But a lot of India might have moved on from the crisis phase. What's the crisis phase? A crisis phase when people were still anxious. I mean, they were not relaxed on how they are dealing with the situation. They were very concerned for their loved ones. They were not. They were worrying whether how will we cope with this? Will there be jobs? What will really going to happen? Yeah. And what did we do then? We all got OCD. Right, we all started stocking up on sanitizing products, home stocking of essentials, learning to work from home. Yeah, and I believe a lot of SEC AB India, or at least India living in the top metros, has almost moved to the resilience phase. Maybe a lot of the rural part of the country or the next, say 40 towns may not have still moved on to resilience, but a lot of people in metros have moved on to the resilience phase. So what's the resilience phase, right? Resilience phase is another fertile time for marketeers, because in the resilience phase, the consumer sort of settles down, right? There is a sense of acceptance. they start saying that, you know what I need is to secure my loved ones. I need to ensure I have my investments. I need to take the right calls on whether I want to spend another year studying, or do I take up a job, or do I do an internship? What do I really do? Right? And then they try to seek a little bit of safety and familiarity. So they try to build a particular routine. They try to say, okay, this is work hours, this is working hours. I used to go for a run, now I can't go for a run, but maybe I can do some push-ups at home, right? And hence they try to make the most of now. They try to enjoy family time. They try to do online shopping. They try to experiment with cooking and health. They try to find ways of passing time, and is it a lot of Netflix, right? And this becomes a fertile time for brands and for innovation, right? There's a lot of changes which happen in the landscape. New services arise because they want to make the most of the consumer seeking his comfort. Yeah. And I would say renewal is far, far away, right? Renewal happens once, people feel that the worst is over, right? Maybe Europe has gone into the renewal phase where, they don't have the vaccine, but the shutdown is over. Cases are no longer rising. They are probably plateauing or slowing down, right? And that's when the sense of relief comes off. Hygiene remain priorities, right? People are concerned about the long-term impact, right? They still continue to believe that in-home is safer. So they continue to maintain high standards of hygiene. They do limited social interaction. They try to celebrate in new ways, yeah, which might have some borrowing from the past, but not exactly the same as what it was earlier. And hence, this is what media loves to call the new normal, right? And hence, how have brands used some of these insights or phases, as I mentioned, right? So I would say Dove, Google, Mojo Pizza are examples of brands which really hopped onto the bandwagon quite early, and they talked about washing your hands or stay apart, stay safe, and stuff like that, which is really in the first phase where the consumer was seeking awareness. Ki bhai, isme karna kya hai? The next phase, which is slightly more in the resilience phase, I would say, is when brands like Kisses went out there and said, you can still pamper yourself at home, right? A Parlay talked about, maybe use a candy to play Ludo, right? Just celebrate your home time, right? And this is an interesting way of giving the consumer a kind of entertainment or solution that he's seeking. Yeah. What else, right? I would say a bunch of brands also did this well of things to do at home, right? Where Time Pass talked about, very cheekily, right? Some call it Time Pass, we call it saving the world. Basically, stay home and eat chips, right? Then Surf Excel, I would say, was the first mover, and they really were quite agile because they moved the proposition from Daag Achhe Hain to Daag Ghar Pe Rahenge, which is about saying that kids will be kids. They might make a mess outside, or they might make a mess inside the house, but surf is always there for your cleaning needs, right? Very simple ways of being relevant to the consumer. Yeah. And then in recent day times, I see a lot of conversation around appreciation and gratitude. Yeah, where we have, the amount of engagement we saw on Doctors' Day recently. Yeah, because the consumer is feeling grateful to the Dunzos of the world and feeling a sense of relief, and brands are using this opportunity to talk about this. Yeah, and it's the right thing to do. Similarly, other themes have been support and solidarity, right? So Parle G talked about handing over 3 crore packets of biscuits, right? A lot of other brands talked about doing their own little bit, yeah, and helping healthcare workers, and really support and solidarity is a very, very relevant theme in a time of crisis. Brands like QSRs, KFCs, which they cannot survive if a consumer does not go out, or right? And hence assurances of safety is really another thing which a lot of brands have talked about. Yeah. And then it's about free riding on topicality, which is, a lot of jokes, a lot of memes that we've been seeing about the fact that, I want to go back to work so I can work less, right? It's about being topical in your humor, being topical in terms of realizing that the consumer is living in a live ambience and talking about your propositions in a more logical manner. Yeah. And hence, from a marketer standpoint, really there are broadly three learnings, right? One, identify new passion points, right? Whether those are cooking, whether those are vocal for local, yeah. Identify new product opportunities, whether it is new sanitizers, whether it is immunity boosters, right? Speak, don't stop speaking. Yeah, consumer wants to talk to you, wants to be engaged, but speak in a manner that is sensitive and which is relevant. So I would say this is broadly the way of marketing, the way of communication. Now, let me talk about another interesting segment. Yeah, and I've just put on a post on LinkedIn today morning about it. So I wonder whether some of you got a chance to see it. But really, it's about what are the further emerging trends, right? So I just talked about how brands are talking, yeah. But now to talk about what is the future going to look like, and a lot of very smart agencies have already taken the first steps in exploring these places. But I would say there's a long way to go, and we would continue to see development on this area. So the first one is what I call society marketing, right? And what is society marketing, right? Now, people are not really venturing out, right? Even when they're venturing out, they're very guarded, right? When you are worrying that my trip to the grocer is like a life and death experience, right? At that time, you are not very interested in looking at the hoardings around you, right? It's not very relevant. You're not really interested in listening to radio, what you used to do when you were casually in a car ride, right? So how do you remind the consumer? How do you remind the consumer when the consumer is not going out? And not everything can be done on TV and digital, right? There is a need for a physical push, a physical reminder often when you want people to purchase new services, right? And what I've been finding very interesting, and this is a very early trend, right? People are realizing that societies can be aggregated to replace outdoor and print. So the lift lobby can become a great area of sending you advertising messages through say flat TVs. So you can use society WhatsApp groups, right? You can dovetail advertising information along with delivery, and we have these weekend markets coming up on society, right? A friend of mine was there in the ice cream sector, so he shared with me a Google link to share it in our society groups, and he said that if I get enough orders for ice cream, we will come on the weekend and deliver it to you, right? So societies or gated societies, I think the time is ripe for a very smart entrepreneur to really tie up with a large number of societies and sort of monopolize the space. And if he did, he will have a very large scale catchment, right? And maybe that's how hoardings or outdoor would have emerged in the first place, right? So I would say society marketing is a very interesting emergent trend. Another very interesting trend is moment marketing, right? So we all know digital, right? We know Facebook, we know YouTube, we know Instagram, right? But what do we engage with on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram? A few boring banner ads, yeah, which interrupt us. You don't want to participate in them. You don't want to click on them, right? But when Modi says vocal for local, it suddenly becomes a buzz. Everybody finds that message intriguing, right? And that is a great opportunity for brands for a couple of days. It's not like a long-term campaign. It could be a few days even. But really using that time, almost hop onto that bandwagon and talk to the consumer about something which is extremely relevant today, right? And maybe passe tomorrow, right? And that I think is something which all brand managers, agencies, conventional digital agencies are trying to build muscles in, saying that how do we plot this trend? How do we ready for it? And those conventional 4 rounds of approval is not going to work out here. I mean, you cannot on vocal for local have 3 rounds of iterations with creative and the senior management, right? So the muscles that you require are very, very different, right? Or how do you really be an agile marketer who uses moment marketing as a clear part of their strategy? And this is an area I think there are muscles being built. The other thing is growth of new media. Right now, like I said, there is conventional digital, which in my head is Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube, right? And they're done to death, right? I think there is everything which is to be thought out and how they are to be used. I think every marketer knows that they're on everybody's playbook. But how does a marketer advertise on Spotify? I think we don't know. We generally don't know, right? And if a marketer tries to run a radio ad on Spotify, not working, right? Because radio ads are meant for that ruckus in the traffic, yeah, when there are blaring horns. So you have music at a particular volume, and then when the ad comes, the host is virtually shouting at you. Not going to happen on Spotify. No ways. You will be rejected. Consumer will probably have a negative perception, right? And really, it's about figuring out what is the right way of advertising, right? Again, what is the right way of advertising on Hotstar OTT? Yeah, when Hotstar is coming on smart TVs on people's homes, do we run regular ads? Maybe. Do we run clickable ads? Maybe not, because a clickable ad is what you would do only when it is being viewed on your mobile. So if it's going to be more viewed on a smart TV, what do we really put out there? Not sure. And I would be bluffing if I said I knew the answers for the above questions. Maybe not. But it is something that I need to figure, my agencies need to figure. And if there is a competency somebody builds on new age media, I think it'll be very exciting for marketeers and for consumers alike. Yeah. The next big thing which is really happening out there are these big budget premieres on digital, right? I think a lot of Bollywood held back, saying that yaar ye khul jayega, so let's not worry, right? And then what they realized कि ये खुलने नहीं वाला है. The cinema halls are not opening up, and hence you finally have something like a Shakuntala Devi, which is a big budget movie release being done with Amazon. Okay, so what is it? Does it mean anything for brands? Yes, it does. Why does it mean so much for brands? Because the stars are at home. There is limited production opportunities. The stars are accessible. So Shakuntala Devi or Vidya Balan is now willing to rub shoulders with a lot more brands than she would have done earlier, because she wouldn't have required to. Now to get scale, there is a lot more opportunity for challenger brands, small brands, new brands to really work with A-list stars, because the A-list stars are also willing to collaborate. Yeah. And once you collaborate end to end, right, and you have somebody like an Amazon along with you, the integration possibilities are endless. From a 360 perspective, there is true magic for brands. And I would say brands like Vedantu have done a really good job with Shakuntala Devi. Yeah. And what else? Something which is evolving, and a lot of us as marketeers are aware of it, and we're not figured out how to use it yet. Yeah. And that is online education. Now we know that a lot of kids are going to be wanting to have education through digital. Does it mean we want to play ads there? No, that's not what it means. That means, can brands come in and figure out a way to help, right? Is there a way for brands to create a seamless platform to agglomerate all of this? And I'm not just talking about a Byju's here. Yeah, sure, a Byju's, Vedantu, all these guys can help. But who else can help? What else can be done? How are we going to help parents resolve all of this? How do we see this in a manner which is positive? And if brands can figure out a positive way to help, you obviously, as a byproduct, get a chance to use it tomorrow. So I would say any emergent trend is a place for marketeers to watch out and really keep yourself agile, posted, engaged. Yeah. Now, enough about marketing. Let me just come down now to the new behaviors, right? And these are now gonna get a little more personal. This is more related to work. This is about what I have been observing, right? And how would you be expected to interact, right? Because you would worry about saying that I'm gonna join my job, but really, will I be able to contribute? And what's gonna be different about it? So one, I would say the big shift for all of us as professionals at home has been this whole work from home. Yeah. And it's non-stop work. I mean, it's unbelievable. I've really been working on far more than I ever thought possible. Yeah, and everything's a blur. Weekends are a blur, weekdays are a blur, day and night is a blur. Why is that, right? Because I just think your body clock changes. You just take a few things for granted. When you physically leave your office at evening 6 or 7, something switches off in your mind. It doesn't switch off anymore because your house, your work, everything just gets a little integrated. Yeah. Digital hitches are a pain, and I was paranoid about the fact that will my voice go through clearly? Will there be some kind of an hitch? Is there a backup or a backup? And believe you me, when you are having a presentation with your managing director and you have a digital hitch, it's not fun, right? Balancing your personal versus professional commitments is tough. The biggest issue of working from home has been the lack of professional networking. So much of work happens when you just rub shoulders with a boss or somebody else in a hallway. Not happening anymore, right? So there is time for everything. There is faceless communication. You don't know the expressions of the other person who's going to see your presentation, so you don't know how is it being received. Yeah, and all of these are hassles, something that we have to adapt and get used to. However, on the flip side, what I realized very interestingly is that just because we are working from home does not mean we are disconnected. Yeah, and there are so many ways of being connected, right? So believe you me, when we all went into the lockdown in March, April, all of Britannia was sitting at home and calling retailers directly on their phones, right? And we are obviously getting a bit of gali, getting abused, ki aapka maal nahi hai. But it was the only way of understanding what's on the ground, right? Then we realized that we can enable the retailers to work with us even when there was no supply solutions in place, right? And hence we started giving SMS blasts to retailers saying that, what, our stocks for Britannia are available at this retailer, go down. If you've got a vehicle, you can come and pick it up, right? We started a lot more of marketing, yeah, and hence connection in a disconnected world became a source of competitiveness, and which is why certain organizations and certain professionals did better than others. Again, like I said earlier, when we all got into the shutdown, there was a psychological pressure to adopt a frugal mindset. They said, what, economy is going to collapse, brands will get hit, let's not advertise. Yeah, and some brands started advertising more, right? And then we realized that pulling out your investments is a bigger risk. So you need to recast your projects. You need to focus on what is really important, right? But it does not mean that you need to stall your work, right? You need to probably work faster on certain projects, right? And that's really a learning. Yeah. And finally, what I also realized is there is always a digital hack. I mean, this is something I never thought possible personally, and I used to spend a good 10 days a month just traveling to various parts of the country doing consumer immersions. Amritsar, Chennai, Bombay was a part of my itinerary virtually every second month, right? And what has digital done for us? We realized that you can do consumer immersion in digital, and SEC A, B, C, D consumers. I mean, all of them have become so comfortable now. Engaging online, provided you have an agency to fix the infrastructure and give us a solution. Yeah, and again, there's a time for agencies to be agile. Researchers have started going digital, but not got there yet. Yeah, so far, a Nielsen or an Ipsos still does not know how to replicate their studies through digital, but I'm assuming it will eventually get there. Activations are digital, collaboration is digital. There's a lot of knowledge in digital, so I would say there is always a digital hack. And finally, what I feel, is the big change regarding the shutdown is on leadership behaviors, right? So this is a time to be empathetic. This is a time for having personal, for having a concern for personal well-being, because you don't know what's going on the other side of the screen. You don't know how your colleagues are facing. Do they have a family member which is impacted? You don't know, right? You need to step up to coach instead of waiting for somebody to ask. Right, you need to, and so much of our communication action actually happens non-verbally, and hence you need to clarify expectation. You need to talk. You need to use non-verbal. You have to realize that there is not a time for non-verbal inputs, right? And hence it's a time to be patient. right? So these are really some of the behavioral changes. Yeah. Now, for the money slide, and I'm sure there's a lot of interest from a lot of people on how do I navigate my career, right? And this is just a very broad overview. I don't think that anybody will have a playbook which can tell you exactly what to do. What I can try to do is to give a few examples from my past. Yeah. I also understand it's not just sales and marketing guys out there. There'll be probably people from the other functions as well. So hence, while I am a sales and marketing professional, I will try to glean some of the learnings which are a little more general, right? And hence, how do we manage our careers? First, just a recap on what has my own career journey been like over the last 16 years. So really, the first part of my job is when I started in operations or sales. I was an area sales manager in 04. And I worked across scenic snow-capped valleys and hills of Uttaranchal. And, I used to always joke to myself saying that ambience looks so beautiful. And all I can think about is how much of soap I'm going to sell when I was a Wipro consumer. So really, that was a very, very exciting part of my life. Yeah. Followed by Vijayawada. And this is, a very common part of Vijayawada for those who are aware of the city. But I really spent almost 2.5 years in Vijayawada. So the first 4 years of my life was in sales and operations. And it's my firm advice, it's my belief, right? No matter who you are, right? Whether you're in finance, you're in operations, you might have dreams of being a treasury head, a planner, whoever you are, right? My recommendation is start with operations. Yeah, start with the grunge, start with the grind, start with the pain, start with the hard work, right? Because in the earlier years of your career, it's almost great to be skeptical. When we come out of our B schools, we are all very, very convinced we are going to change the world tomorrow. And many of us do. It doesn't happen tomorrow, right? And how do you eventually end up doing that, right? It ends up by actually being cynical for all that does not work. And the best place to become cynical is in the field and operations, where you are measured by, every ounce of sweat that you lead and the every little piece of result that you get, right? And hence being operations and result focused, having the drive of delivery, right? Of being able to cut the, faff from practical reality. I would say that's really what operations gives you. And I would, push all of you in whichever field you are, is there an opportunity for you in hardcore operations that you can seek out, right? It will be non-glamorous, might be painful, might be hard, do it, right? And that's the right place to start. After you first spend the first 3-4 years in operations, right? If you are a strong performer and you are known to give your best, right? You are a person who delivers results, right? You will be noticed. You will move on to head office. Yeah, you move on to head office. That's great for you. You move on in customer marketing. You can move on in brand management. You can move on to a lot of other areas, right? I did my head office profile in GEMS, and I made this ad called Rahu Umarless. I quite love that creative still, and I would, encourage you to look it up. Yeah, I had a great time on gifting on Cadbury celebrations. It's a brand which was around. My proposition was, "So is Diwali aap kisi khush karoge?" And it's a different story on why I did that and what was there, but it's really exciting. But after just 4 years in marketing, or 5 years in marketing, I sort of realized that it's time to go back and face the grind again. Yeah, so I went back and became a branch sales manager. And why did I do that? Because there is functional expertise, and then there is leadership skills. And when you're midway through your career, it's very important to look for a leadership role. And nothing gives you a leadership experience again than operations. Yeah. So I did almost a 3-year stint as a branch sales manager on one of the most troublesome and difficult terrains, right? I was handling rest of Maharashtra, MP, Chhattisgarh, Goa. Why troublesome? Because it is really a belt which is politically very strong, and we would have a lot of shutdowns, distributor unrest, a lot of firefighting, a lot of pain, a lot of madness, right? But it's always been in my difficult roles where I feel I've learned a lot. So I did that stint, and I felt I've rounded up 10 years of my life. I've started with operations, did my marketing. What I really want to do, I've done my leadership role. What next? Yeah. And that's where a sort of a vision setting for yourself is very critical, right? And my biggest advice to anybody looking to build their career is don't think about your next job. Think about who you want to be 15 years down the line, right? So when I'm in 04, it's almost asking myself, what will I be in 2020? Yeah. And I identified for myself that in 2020, I want to be leading marketing for, a business, right? And I was able to navigate my career there, obviously with my effort, but definitely a, large stroke of luck, mentors, and of course, the will of God. But after I did my leadership stint and had rounded that for 10 years, I said, if I want to be a marketing head at 2020, what do I need? I said I need deep understanding on all of the verticals of marketing. And what are they? There's innovation. So I joined Diageo. I was the innovation head for premium and luxury spirits. I launched Captain Morgan Dark Rum, which was among the most successful innovations that year, 42 crores of NSV in the first year. Yeah. I did my stint in Diageo. I was very clear I don't want to work in alcohol too long, so I moved to Britannia. Yeah. In Britannia, the next troika which I wanted to solve for was being a marketing head of international business. So I did marketing for Nepal, Middle East, Bangladesh, Bhutan. How did that help me? Yeah, it helped me by giving a perspective on how brands move across markets. How can the same proposition work with completely different sets of consumers? It is very interesting, very useful for me. And now I've rounded up my career going back to a mainline career in India, which is the marketing head for dairy. But really, this is a very interesting sort of a flow chart for you to plan out your career right now, saying that in the next 16 years, what are the set of experiences that you uniquely desire? Yeah. And now I just want to open up what are those various experiences that you can look forward to. Yeah. And once you spot your path, you find the right set of experiences, then don't worry. Something can come first, something can come later. Yeah. But your career is a long time, right? It's 40 years of career there, right? These 1.5, 2 years is a very small part of it, right? But what do you need to cover in all this time is very critical to understand and amplify. Okay. So first, just to give you a deeper understanding of, what are the various functions out there that a sales and marketing guy can work on, right? I mentioned about what I have done, but there's an equal amount of what I have not done. Yeah. So starting with sales, yeah. The next thing there is marketing, and I will go deeper into these. And second. Yeah. Somebody's mic seems to be on. Okay. Okay. Now going back to my presentation. Okay. So as I mentioned, the key sections are sales, there's marketing, there's also shopper marketing. Yeah. There's something which I have not done, which is very exciting. Yeah. Customer marketing is really, you have the consumer at one end and you have the sales at the other end who supplies. In the middle, you have the shopper. Shopper is the person who actually picks up the product from the shelf. And there are a very different set of levers that you can deploy when you want to do customer marketing or shopper marketing. And finally, there is consumer insights and of course, media. So I would say these are the various sections, right, which you can look at from a holistic sales and marketing career perspective. Going deeper. What all is there in marketing, right? And one way of dividing marketing itself, right, is to say that there is the consumer end and then there is a shopper end. Yeah. Then there is output orientation and then there is input, which is bundle creation, right? What does this mean? So the conventional marketing, which I and you know of, is consumer marketing. It is output oriented. It's about hitting out the consumer and it is consumer oriented. The input often towards consumer marketeers is innovation. And that's the role which I did in Diageo, right? Which is all about creation of new bundles for the market. Now, again, it is pure play marketing. So you spend a lot of time working with consumers. It's very exciting because you can create a bundle or a need from the scratch, right? But it's not about making glamorous ad campaigns. That's something that you hand over to the consumer marketing team. Like I said, input to output. Shopper marketing, which is again something which is very, very interesting. And for people who enter sales, one of the another interesting ways to navigate your career is to do shopper marketing. You can come back to sales or you can proceed into consumer marketing, right? But shopper is really about a bunch of levers that are becoming more and more relevant with, say, modern trade. Yeah. And then the input towards the sharper marketing is trade marketing, right? And trade marketing is really about the efficiency of reaching out to your customer. How do you become a most favored customer for a lot of your chains? And again, just a slightly deeper look into sales. Yeah. So sales, the traditional role of sales that we all know is that of an area sales manager. It's probably the role that most of us will start our careers with in sales and marketing, which is about reaching out, which is scale, and it is mainline. Yeah. Another part of sales is emerging, which is rural. And I would say in the last few years, we have not been having as much of conversation on rural. But yeah, bottom of the pyramid, we've all heard these terms, right? It's really about reaching to the large mass of humanity, which is Bharat, right? And that's really scale, and it is emerging. And there are very different models of sales there. Another model of sales, I would say, is when there is greater complexity. You move from scale towards complexity, and complexity is where there's a lot of buzz. Yeah. So where is the buzz? The buzz is there in modern trade. Yeah. And modern trades have done really well. But I would say modern trades have also now lost the trick to e-commerce. Yeah. And all of us are hearing of e-commerce now. Right? E-commerce is emerging and there is complexity. Yeah. Now, marketing beyond FMCG. Now I'm really coming towards the end of my presentation. So we will, open up to questions very soon. But really, all of us want to have a career in FMCG. Yeah. But, what are these companies are not coming to my campus? Then what do I do? What else can I look for, right? Is there something beyond FMCG in life? Sure, there is. And, a lot of us have been talking about e-commerce, right? I would say an Amazon or a Flipkart, Myntra. I think these are all becoming really, really large. And these are really, really interesting areas for people who are interested in sales and marketing to really navigate their careers and explore, because, there's a world of opportunity in terms of how big they'll grow. Yeah. But what beyond FMCG? What beyond e-commerce, right? I think something that not all of us look as strongly at is creative agencies. Yeah. And personally, when I see the kind of a work that my partners in Ogilvy contract or a McCann do, I often wonder, isn't that a more fertile or a better area to, run my career? And hence my recommendation to you is that if you don't land your job into your dream FMCG, you should definitely consider looking at a job in a creative agency. And believe you me, it's really, really exciting. Yeah. When you join a creative agency, you might start from client servicing, which is a similar part of like sales, like operations. You could move over to planning, which is, something similar to consumer insighting. Yeah. Or you work in a creative agency and then you move over to an FMCG. And that happens. It works both ways. There are also digital agencies. And this is a very interesting area of looking at a career. I would say the best work out there in the field of marketing is probably being done by a 22 feet or a Foxy Moron or a Web Chutney. And these are all big agencies when it comes to understanding digital, right? And that's a great area for marketeers and people who are excited about where the future is moving to participate in. Yeah. Other areas which you should also look at, which are a part of the marketing genre, right? But not something that all of us consider from the first day, right? Are really research agencies, right? And research agencies can be both qualitative and quantitative, right? And I would say qualitative research agencies are really, really interesting places to build your career. They again probably do very, very cutting edge and really insightful thought through work. I mean, I have had my best interactions working with qualitative researchers, right? And, if I had to choose an alternative career, maybe that's where I would go. And then there are quantitative research agencies, guys like IRMA, Nielsen, they also need a lot of marketing. So I would say when you are looking forward to a career in sales and marketing, broaden your horizon. Yeah. Obviously start with your vision, start with the end goal. Whom do I want to be 15 years from now? And then chart out in those 15 years, what are the various experiences that I require? I decided proactively that I need to balance my career. I need to do as much of sales as marketing. And I did that, though I don't love sales, right? I decided that I need to go deep into innovation. I need to go deep into international marketing, and I need to go deep into specific, segments like dairy, which is what I picked up. Now, not all of these things will happen by choice. There's a very large part of chance out there, right? And you need to be open towards everything, right? And hence that long-term vision is what you need to hold on to. So hold on to the vision of what you will be 15, 16 years down the line, and figure out how to get there, figure out among all of this which I've shared, what is the building blocks for your career. Yeah. And, just sort of last part about saying that, all that is great, but what can I do right now and what is going to be relevant? Yeah. So what you can do right now is sharpen your skills. And what are the key skills that a sales and marketing guy will require? I would say storytelling. Storytelling will become even more important in this digital world where you are just talking across the screen, faceless, right? It's going to be the power of your words, is the story that you weave, right? Again, analytical thinking and problem solving, something, arguably Indians have always been known to be good at, which is why so many engineers land up in MBAs. Yeah. And of course, lateral thinking, right? Now, how do you build on these skills? What do you do about it, right? A few things which I would suggest you do right now if you've not already done it. Read up some good books, and I would, always suggest Al Rice and Jack Trout. They are my favorite authors because they have always talked about marketing in a very straightforward and simple manner, right? Without overcomplicating it, right? In today's times for marketeers, How Brands Grow is a Bible. And I would really, really recommend that all of you read this book. It's probably more the marketing of what today is. Yeah, and I think it's brilliant. Inspire yourself. Don't lose your thirst for inspiration. Dream of winning a cons, right? And before you dream of winning a cons, you should know what they are, right? And really important to go onto YouTube and see as many videos on cons winning case studies as you can. Yeah. And finally, try to decode advertising. Yeah. And I would say this is really, really fun. When you've done the first 3 steps, you will have all the ammunition that you'll need to really understand what's really going out in the field of marketing right now. And, why are the ads that you see going on right now? What are they really based in? And I would say inciting is something that is important. And these are just some of the things which I feel many of you should invest your time. Yeah. So I think we are almost bang on time, maybe 3 minutes before time. So that's largely what I had to talk about. Yeah. So let me next go on to the chat window and try to figure out what are the questions from some of there. And some of these questions I'm happy to take through talk as well. So let's just see that.
Sir, if it's okay, can we invite people to come over their microphones?
Yeah. So in fact,
okay.
I'm also happy to just take these questions completely verbally.
Yes, definitely. So if anybody wants to come up verbally, they can please switch on their microphones for a moment and then they can ask their questions as well. Meanwhile, sir, can you read the questions from the chat box, or should I read it for you, sir?
Let me do that. Okay. So
okay.
So when it comes to rural marketing, what kind of a business strategy is Britannia pursuing versus urban, right? The biggest part of rural marketing is reach. Yeah. And I have always found it fascinating to see that, when I was in Mondelez and chocolates and the kind of budgets that a Mondelez has is often more than what a Britannia has. But the total reach of a Mondelez was about 1 million outlets, right? And Britannia reaches out to 4 million outlets. And just 7 years back, Britannia used to reach out only to 1.5 million outlets, right? This entire part of moving from a 1.5 million outlets to 4 million outlets is often a game changer. Yeah. And what that has been done is by a very astute understanding of business strategy. It's about understanding how does the return on investment for a rural structure work out. And, one of the game-changing things which Britannia did is that they moved their days of stock in their distributor godowns from 3 weeks of stock to 3 days of stock through an excellent supply chain. And that really unleashed the power of investment that a sub-distributor could do in terms of putting in manpower and giving us that reach. Yeah. Okay, now I'll go to the next question, which I think Mrityunjay has asked. What's your take on the job market scenario after 2 years, especially in retail FMCG sector, as COVID has impacted almost all kind of jobs? See, COVID has impacted jobs, but consumption has not decreased, right? So it's ironical because if the stock market, if Sensex is bouncing back, if consumption is still happening, why are jobs impacted? I would say jobs are impacted because all of us are being, it's a psychological pressure to be frugal, like I said. It is more of an artificial requirement of saying that, we need to do cost cutting because things are getting hit. But not really. right? The FMCG industry is doing quite fine, and I think it's just about deferring or delaying these jobs, right? Now, there are job losses, and job losses are definitely there in hospitality, in malls, in restaurants, and chains, right? But there is a growth in digital. There's a growth in e-commerce. There's a growth in Dunzo. There's a growth in Byju's. There's a growth in a lot of other sectors, and hence I would say it is a combination of HR teams and businesses being risk averse, and certain sectors which are seeing a temporary hit. But I would say at an overall level, if I were to say 2 or 3 years down the line, our CAGR, the compounded annual growth rates, will match up. So if there is a 3% growth for the economy this year, it'll be matched with the 7% next year. And I would say at an overall level, I don't think we'll really lose anything. Yeah. How difficult is it for FMCG to procure raw materials during the pandemic? Yeah. See, the government has been really, really helpful, and essential services were really, I mean, the government has gone overboard to help everybody out, right? And, those passes were available to everybody, and hence, really, raw material procurement has not been that difficult. It's an unsafe time for labor to work in factories, and hence that is something which one has to take care of, and really be confident that you're doing the right thing, right? But I would say at an overall level, FMCG has really not been impacted as badly as it probably looks. Yeah.
Sir,
Then okay. Should I move on to the next question by?
Sir, just a moment. Somebody is trying to come up over the microphone. I guess it's Shankar. Yeah, Shankar, you can please go on and ask your question.
yeah, so sir, there was a follow-up question to the difficulty to procure raw material during the lockdown. So I'm sure that due to the pandemic, Britannia too might have invested heavily when it comes to making the surroundings clean and making it hygienic for the workers to operate. So could you
Yeah.
share a little bit info on that aspect, as in what kind of investment Britannia would have made, or any FMCG sector for that matter might be required to make?
Yeah, so I would say again, government has laid very clear guidelines, and that's really a brilliant job done. Huh? I mean, I never expected the government to be so agile, right? But there are extremely, extremely clear guidelines, not just for factories but also for offices, right? About there has to be minimum distance between two people, so alternative seats get closed, right? Everybody has to wear the mask 100% of work hours inside the office, right? And your guards will check people up there. When you enter an office premise, hand sanitization is done. Your temperature is checked. Your temperature is checked when you've entered, when you exit, right? There are clear demarcations in terms of stickers put on floors. There is no common eating arrangement. Eating spaces have been divided into two people sitting front and back, right? Toilets have got a minimum restriction of one edge to the other edge, right? Then air conditioners are switched off, and you are replacing them with a regular fan kind of a device, because air conditioners can again rotate the virus. So I would say there are a large number of changes. They would have been very difficult for the small entrepreneur. So a lady running a dentist shop, right, might find a lot of this unwieldy. But I would say not really manufacturers, and it's the right thing to do for manufacturers. I don't think that as a manufacturer we have found the cost too high or unfair, and we've all felt that thank God for the right and clear government guidelines with no confusion in what is to be done. And I think implementation of them has been quite straightforward. Yeah. So does somebody want to ask a verbal question, or should I just read the chat? Okay.
If somebody wants to ask, they can please switch on their microphones and ask the question. That would be okay, I guess.
So I wanted to ask the question that when you change your career from marketing to sales in your mid age, and how was it difficult when you change your career?
Yeah, it was extremely stressful, because there is a certain kind of a person that you are, and there are certain things that you do more easily and certain things which are more difficult. So for me, sales is tough. And while I did very well in sales in the first 3-4 years of my life, because maybe because I was not as molded into a professional that I was, So first 3-4 years, since sales is all I knew, and I was really enjoying it, and I did really well at it. I did my marketing for 4-5 years, and I think I really converted myself into the way I approach myself, the way I think. And going back to sales, I would be joking if I would say it was anything short of a nightmare. It was very difficult, but it was crucial. It was really crucial because I luckily had this, way of planning and thinking, and I would, see my life and my professional almost like a project that I do, and hence I was very, very keen to plot out all that I need to do. And I knew that if I did not do sales at my at that time, I could not have become the marketing leader that I am right now, because people won't trust me. I won't get that opportunity because people will say, yeah, you can be an ancillary marketing guy. I mean, you can do insights, you can do planning, you can do XYZ, but you're not grounded, and you probably don't know on what you are saying in marketing, how is it really impacting business. And really, even at my current role, when I look into the eyes of my managing director and I speak to him with confidence, right? That confidence only comes because I know that I am not just a marketer. I'm a person who can see business from a 360 lens. And I know if I'm proposing something in marketing, it is not faff. It's going to make a difference. And that sense of grounding comes through operation roles. And hence it is tough, but you have to do it and you should plan for it.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Okay, so
Sir, I guess there are a lot of questions in the chat box. So if anybody wants to know something on an urgent basis, they can please switch on their microphones. Sir may not be able to address all the questions, I guess.
Hello, sir. This is Shashank here from PRM40,
hi,
and
Shashank.
just wanted to ask one thing. How do you think the future of micro delivery and hyperlocal delivery will be in the SEC A, B, not SEC A, but rather SEC B, C, D areas?
So it's I would say, very nuanced question, right? And one of the similar questions was asked to me by a talk show recently is to say that, Saurabh, do you think that drone deliveries are going to happen in India? So I said, no, I don't think drone deliveries are going to happen, because a lot of this micro deliveries, DTH, right, or DTC, right, it tends to be a very, very early emergent trend, right? And it has not got scale so far. And like I said, for Britannia, the entire contribution of e-commerce is 1%, right, to our NSV. For cheese, it is 10%. So for L'Oreal, it is 20%. For Vivo, it might be 50%, right? So there are different product categories, and they have their different, business models. And even a DTC, a direct to consumer, works when you have an average ticket size, which is say $2,000, right? Because I can subsidize the cost of that operation, right? And hence, I would say it's a world of opportunity. Whatever happens in the West will eventually happen here, and that's a great place to seek an understanding and a view into the future. But it will be left to individual entrepreneurs to look at individual trends, and I don't think there is a one fit all kind of an answer.
Yeah. Sir, just an addition to
Thank
this
you,
question, what Shashank said, that can we see an era of contactless deliveries coming into future, maybe because of this pandemic? This was something which was unpredictable. So can we, if we foresee any such pandemic coming in future as well, taking into cognizance the current situation, so would it be the trend of the future? Can we say, can it be a trend?
So I spent a lot of time as we got into the lockdown in March, really studying up and reading onto pandemics. And what I realized are that pandemics are not new. Fortunately, they happen maybe once every 50 years, right? So I am hoping by God's grace, we shouldn't see another pandemic in our lifetime. Yeah. But unbelievable as it might sound, India lost 14 crore people in 1918, right? When where there was the Spanish flu going on, right? And it's the time when none of our parents were also probably alive, and hence we don't know about it, we don't remember it. So planning for another pandemic, I think, is premature. I don't think that we need to plan for another pandemic, right? And hence there are two kind of opportunities. One kind of an opportunity is a current issue, and the current issue is the contactless delivery, which will be a flash in the pan, which will come and go. And then there are learning opportunities where there are learning which are happening for the better. Do we need to be more hygienic as people? Yes. Should e-commerce become larger? Yes. Do we need contactless deliveries 2 years from now? Maybe not. Do we need a much stronger e-commerce background? Yes. Do we need more hygienic packaging, etc., etc.? Sure, we do. Do we need more hygiene? Do we need hand sanitizers? Yeah, why not? So that's the way I would like to answer that.
Sir, good evening, sir. This is Amit Kumar from the executive batch. Hi, sir. Sir, actually, just 1 or 2 years ago, I read somewhere that the Marico Limited head, sir, Mr. Saugata Gupta, he was saying that in recent times, maybe in the next 4 to 5 years, the kind of distribution or the order booking process will change. Like it will be more like app-based services. And on this similar verge, I guess to some extent, Udaan has started this kind of work. They are doing this. And similarly, recently I read news that Tata Consumer Products, they have almost scrapped the contract with 40 direct distributors and around 2,000 sub-dealers working under them. So how do you see this? I mean, will it not result in loss of many jobs, or will it become a different industry or something like that?
Sure. Let me address that. See, see, a lot of these changes, they always sound, very scary or very large, and it's everything going to change and so on and so forth, right? I would say these changes happen incrementally, right? So when Unilever started their Shakti, right, everybody thought, yeah, Shakti is the future and there'll be only rural and nobody's going to talk about anything else, right? Shakti program came, went. It changed something. A lot of us became a lot more agile. Rural became larger. Yeah. Then you had PNG coming in, and PNG launched something which they called Golden Eye. Right. Golden Eye was a way of selling which is unprecedented in the country. All of us of Britannia would have had maybe at least 100 distributors in Madhya Pradesh. Right. They came and put only one distributor in Madhya Pradesh. And he said that one distributor will cater to all of our servicing. There will be only handhelds, and then there will be advertising awareness, and we will use wholesale. Have they beaten Unilever? No. Has Unilever changed over to Golden Eye? No. Is it better to say, is the Unilever model better or the PNG model better? Can't say. Both are equally good. Some have got their advantages, some have got their disadvantages. Yeah. What has changed in the last 10 years for sure in FMCG? There's a lot more data. Everybody is collecting a lot of data. So there's a lot more transparency. There's a lot more data. That's the first thing. What else has changed? A lot of direct phone numbers of retailers are there. NEFT records are there. A lot of FMCGs are doing payouts directly to retailers. Yeah, sure, that has changed. So no longer the distributor is trying to do that job. What else has changed? What else has changed is that handhelds have become very common. Most of the salesmen who earn, say, 3,000, 4,000 rupees salary today are handed over Lenovo or other company pads, right? Most FMCG is doing that. A lot of FMCG is also using artificial intelligence. So we are using artificial intelligence to help that guy who is the last rung, the front line, to sell better. How do we do that? We use artificial intelligence when he uses his handheld. There are 6 screens. The first screen are those are the must sell SKUs that he needs to sell to the retailer. The next screens are using some artificial intelligence logic algorithm of saying similar stores should get all of these same SKUs. That's there. Third is scheme SKUs. Fourth is something else. And we keep testing, we keep trying to improve. See, but these changes don't happen in a disruption. It's not that, everything stops and then something new emerges. They keep happening in parallel. New knowledge, new ways of working comes in. I don't think any jobs get lost. Job profiles might change. The same number of people might now do something else. Things might become more competitive, right? But I don't think we have to worry about job losses per se.
Thanks a lot, sir, for your lovely insights, sir.
Thank you.
Hello, sir. Akshay here. Sir, I have one
Hi, Akshay.
question. Sir, since we know that since the inception of the e-commerce, the revenues are getting increasing every year by year. Like, but at this point of time, e-commerce is booming. We can say that. So,
Right.
because of that, many retail shops they had to close their shops.
Mhm.
Like currently, only the big retails are closing their shops. But now, since the e-commerce is now like focusing towards kirana shops also, like they are providing essential goods also, so is it sustainable?
Yeah. So I'll tell you what, this is my very, very clear belief, right? That there is nobody in this country more entrepreneurial than your Kirana shop. And I would say every model can come and go. The Kirana shop will remain, right? Bayani can shut down. A Big Bazaar can shut down. Flipkart may not succeed, and Amazon can shut down. But but a Kirana will never go. And why? Why do I say that? See, our Kirana shops, no, they are not without their own strengths. They are extremely agile. They offer everything from home delivery to some of them might make their own app someday. They provide credit. And they are just so large in number. So much of India is more comfortable, still buying stuff of the can, right? So even in this time when people can't leave their homes, 99% of biscuits are being sold by the kiranas. No, it's only 1% which is e-commerce. So hence, I won't worry about the kiranas. They are never going to go, right? And they will coexist, right? Like the way in India, you had mobile phones, right, which jumped over the landlines. Before the landlines came, mobile phones became larger. Before conventional dial-in internet started, smartphones came up, right? Same way, even before modern trade has become large enough in the country, e-commerce is becoming bigger, right? And e-commerce in India will leapfrog modern trade. To worry, it is modern trade which has to worry, because I don't think they are providing the kind of value that our consumer is really seeking, right? So e-commerce will grow. Nobody can hurt the kirana sector in a long way.
Okay, thank you, sir.
Good evening, sir. I'm Avinish Arora from going to join in PRM 41. I wanted to ask, I actually wanted to ask you, seeing Western dairy products like cheese, caseins, and other whey drinks, which are having a high potential for India, but they are having a bit of lesser penetration in urban market. But how come? I wanted to know that how the Britannia is planning to get into rural market and urban both.
See, it's all about the maturity of various categories, right? And the infrastructure required to sustain those categories, right? Now, why is the value-added dairy category in India not so large, right? Why are cheese and all not so large, right? The reason why cheese is not so large is because there is still protectionism. You still have an Amul which is so large, and if you have an Amul which is so large, they keep the they provide very little headway or leeway for other entrepreneurs to invest. Because an Amul ensures that the prices are very low. The price is low for the consumer is good. They ensure a very fair value of price of milk for the farmer. But the farmers are not consolidated, and hence, because they're not consolidated, our milk prices remain among the largest, highest in the world. Now, you got very high milk prices. You have an Amul ensuring that the prices of the end product are very low. So, hence, the money for changing behavior for dairy companies like a Britannia, Laughing Cow is very limited, because you got a very flat margin. And Amul is not going to create Greek yogurts. Amul is not going to create cheese dips, right? Maybe he will. If he does, great. It'll be great for the category. But it is the lack of competitiveness that a lot of other majors are facing, which is stopping us from being able to invest as much in consumer behaviors and getting them to understand these propositions. Yeah. Now, it is the thin margins which is inhibiting a lot of these companies from putting up their infrastructure. One of the places where I would say a company did a very good job by investing ahead of the curve was Cadbury's. Now, Cadbury could have had the same challenge with Amul, saying that Amul is keeping the price of chocolates low, but instead they invested ahead of the curve, and they put some this. And what they realized that the problem with the chocolate category is that if the chocolate melts, you don't buy it, which is why chocolates as a category is big in Western countries. So what did they do? They put 3 lakh visi-coolers out there. They put 3 lakh refrigerated coolers at a very high incremental cost. So that converted the Kirana store into the same quality of chocolate experience as in Europe, right? Because the chocolate was cool and you allowed rural to grow. So I would say there is no one answer. There are various strategies, and it will depend upon the agility of manufacturers to figure out the right solutions.
Got it, sir. Thank you so much, sir.
Cool.
Sir, if we can take one last quick question, right? And that would be okay.
Yeah. So I have time. So we can be till 5:30. So we can take a couple of more questions if you want.
Okay, please go ahead if you have got any questions.
Excuse me, sir. There's a question by Rahul Dua. I guess Rahul Jha. Can you please
Okay.
answer? Can you please answer that?
Rahul
So this
Jha.
is Rahul. Yeah, this is Rahul Jha. Okay,
Hi,
I
Rahul.
can speak okay.
Yeah. So you
Yeah.
said last year Varun Berry
So,
said
sir, the last.
Yeah. Go on. You can repeat the question.
Okay, so sir, last year I read an article in Varun Berry of MD of Britannia. He said that the people are thinking twice before buying 5 rupees biscuit because the economy is too weak, or it doesn't seem like what it is in paper.
Yeah.
And right now, sir, it is already crumbled more than the previous year. And we can see that the lower sector of the society is drastically hit by that. Because people are not having jobs and they are losing jobs and temporary jobs they were having. Since they were working in formal sector.
Right.
So, sir, how the company will be changing the strategy to target those customers because they will be only depending on the essentials, and how the other products will be promoted, or what is the change in strategy for the FMCG company will be there for them?
Sure. So, it is amazing that the Britannia share value, right, was about 3,200 rupees in December, right? And it was 3,200 rupees when it had come down because of, what Varun was talking about, the fact that, there's a squeeze in terms of incomes and all of it, right? Now, when the pandemic hit in March, our share value collapsed. So we went down to 2,000 rupees, right? But very interestingly, from the 3,200 in December, we are now at 3,400 plus. So suddenly the shareholder value of Britannia is more than pre-pandemic. So what's really going on? Yeah. And what's really going on is that since people can't go to restaurants because they can't eat outside of the house, they are eating even more inside the house. And if they're eating even more inside the house, biscuits are selling. Biscuits are now selling at 20-30% growth. So hence, I think there are, it's not a very blanket statement about the fact that, farmers don't have money or consumers don't have money or consumption is all getting hit. I think there are various layers, and, you have to go through all of the information and decode it and understand what's really going on. Yeah. Yes, the economy was in a bad state in the past, and the economy is going to be on a much worse state because, tourism is the #1 sector for the revenue of the country. Yes, there will be hassles, but it's not a one-size-fits-all. That does not mean that people are going to have less fire biscuits. They're actually having far more because they're not able to go to restaurants. So I think it's a complex ambience out there, and you have to look at a number of data points to really understand what's going on.
Thanks, sir.
Okay. Any other question, or are we mostly good to go?
One more question. This is Shankar from Executive Batch.
Yeah, Shankar, speak a little louder.
Yeah, since you have some experience working in the international arena, so I would like to know that if there were any learnings that could be utilized in FMCGs in Indian scenarios. One, definitely you mentioned about DTC, direct to consumer. So could you share more such learnings which could work well for FMCGs in India?
So it's quite interesting, and it's for me it is also about what we or the government or sectors knowingly or unknowingly restrict, right, which often provides the biggest areas for growth. So some of the things which I've noticed when I've been up into Dubai, for example, is all the malls used to be open till 2 a.m. because one, there was no real worry of security, and robbery and all was very, very low. And people used to actually prefer shopping at night after they're done with their day-to-day chores, because the roads are empty and stuff like that. So I saw that shops open till 2 a.m. not just in Dubai but also in Saudi Arabia, which in our minds is so-called backward and restricted and all of it, right? So there's a lot of flexibility and feasibility when it is and lack of regulation that actually enables the consumer to have a better time and new opportunities to grow. So one, another change which I've noticed in recent times is certain governments allowing home delivery of alcohol. Now, home delivery of alcohol is not likely to go to somebody who's going to create trouble. Home delivery of alcohol is most likely going to be somebody's house who's going to use it for socializing, who's probably already an elite, who uses it, in a positive frame rather than a negative space. And hence, not allowing home deliveries is something which was stopping the growth of that sector. And just by opening that up, we might get a benefit which might outlast the pandemic. So hence, most of my observations were here in terms of new behaviors which our regulators, knowingly or unknowingly, are sort of holding back right now. And as some of these things open up, as law and order, security becomes easier, a lot more of new behaviors will themselves come.
Sir, one more question, please. How did you cope up? Hello?
Yeah, Rajat, tell me.
So how did you cope up with the organizational behavior in the international leadership, sir?
So the way it was is that it's a slightly complicated structure because we have an office in Dubai, and hence my boss used to sit in Dubai. I was based in Bangalore because the MD used to sit in Bangalore and the rest of the marketing team. So hence, I think from an organizational behavior learning, there were lots of learnings out there. One was this whole learning, working from remote, because I used to travel to Dubai every month, but only a week a month, right? Rest of the 3 weeks, it was, the way we use video streaming and web calls. So I think that is something that I started using ahead of the curve because that is the only way to interact with them. Second was a very diffused team, right? So I had a team in Bangalore, I had a team in Nepal, I had 2 brand managers in Dubai. So, what is the right way to trust your team? Let some things go, because you can't monitor the guy in Nepal every day, right? You have to let go of a lot of things. So how do you ensure that, you set the KRAs and then you sort of liberate them? Yeah. And then there is also about completely different behaviors. So, a team in Dubai operates very differently psychologically because they work in a very different market. The kind of product challenges that they have is very different. The kind of agencies that you interact with in India versus Dubai versus somewhere else is very different, right? So hence, from that standpoint, there's a lot of very interesting learning for me as a person.
Thank you so much, sir.
Cool. Great. So guys, I think we are mostly done.
Yes, sir. Still, I think there are a lot of questions in the chat box, but I don't think that we would be able to address them all.
Sure.
So I think, sir, we can wrap it up over here if it's okay.
Yeah, works for me. And I think it's been great fun interacting with all of you guys, right?
Yes,
Looking forward to continuing the relationship in the future, and let's see if there is another opportunity for me to interact a few months later. Why not?
Definitely, sir. We would be highly obliged to have you again on this platform.
Great. Thank you so much, guys. I hope you guys had a good time. Okay.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Bye.